In this video, you are going to learn step by step how to get started making money with sports cards. And I put this together in a simple 10-step process. And this process comes from my 10 years of buying and selling sports cards, and you're able to grasp it all in about a 30-minute training. And that's why I make this content, so you can start to make money with sports cards. Instead of it taking years like it did for me, you can start to do it right away and cut down on your learning curve. And if you don't know who I am, hi, my name is Eric Michael. I've sold over $5 million in sports cards, and now I own a multiple seven-figure coaching program that teaches people how to make a realistic, safe side income by buying and selling sports cards. And I make these pieces of content to introduce people to the idea of making money with sports cards. It changed my life, and I'm on a mission to help it change as many people's lives as possible. And what I'm going to do now is jump to my computer and take you step by step on exactly how to get started and how to scale a sports card business so you can make an extra few $1,000s a month on top of your existing job. So let's head over to my computer and get into it. All right, so this could be possibly the best training I have ever made. This is my 10 years of sports cards packed into 10 steps. I promise if you just listen to what I'm about to say and listen to all these rules and step-by-step guides I'm about to give you, it will help you make money with sports cards, okay? So let's start off with the basics. So this is meant for a beginner, someone pondering with the idea of making money with sports cards. How do we make money when it comes to sports cards? It's by doing something called grading, okay? What grading is you send a card into a company, and they will grade it by assessing the condition, the corners, the edges, the centering, the surface. And if the condition of the card is good and it grades high and it grades a 10, you'll make money with it. Now, you could do this with older cards, like vintage cards from the 90s and the 80s and the 70s and the 60s and the 50s, or you could do this with modern cards. It is much easier to do this with modern cards, okay? Why? Because vintage cards is a finite amount. With modern cards, there's new cards coming out every single year, right? Think about it. Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, new rookies every year, which means new original cards. Babe Ruth, for example, has no more original cards, right? He's dead. He's an old player. So for that reason, it's easier to make money. Also, with modern cards, they're very volatile, right? Usually the word volatile has a negative connotation with it. But in this training, I'm going to show you how to take advantage of the volatility of modern players, okay? And you could actually play the swings in the market, get these cards graded, and make money at the same time, okay? So what we're doing is we're buying modern cards. When I say modern cards, for the most part, I'm talking about cards that are probably a few years old, 2-3 years old, brand new. So while I'm speaking right now, it's 2024. So I'm looking to buy cards from 24, 23, 22, maybe 21 or 20. But for the most part, newer the better because they're in better condition. If they're in better condition, they're going to be easier to get graded, right? Think about like an Aaron Judge rookie card, which is from 2013. These cards are older. They've been held a million times, shipped a million times, and they're going to get damaged easier, right? Kind of common sense. So that's what we're doing. We're buying newer cards to get them graded and make money. Now, this is an important side note. This probably shouldn't be a side note. This is a main note, okay? Because I know a lot of you guys do this. The purpose of this training, the purpose of what I do is to teach people how to make money with sports cards. All these cards you're going to see me talk about and show come from boxes and packs. Some of you guys might be familiar with the word ripping or breaking. Opening up boxes and packs, that is what drives the hobby. However, it is a losing proposition, okay? This is a great way to lose money, all right? It's no different than going to the slot machine at the casino and pulling the lever. Can you get lucky once? Of course, all right? But over the long run, I can promise you, you're going to make or lose a lot of money, all right? So if your purpose is to make money, do not open up packs and boxes because you will lose. All right, so let's get into step number 2, the grading strategy. This is kind of like a bird's eye view, and it's important you understand this because you got to understand how we're making money, all right? So if you're broke, it's going to be hard to do this. You need at least a few grand in working capital, to be honest with you. Now, what I tell people is you want to be buying 1 card every business day. So 5 cards a week is a healthy amount to buy. Now, I put together this chart. This is the best way I could illustrate it. So this column right here, this row, is you spending money, right? Minus 500, minus 500. This is money coming out of your bank account or out of your credit card. This is money coming back in, okay? Plus, right? Money's coming back in the bank. So standard rule of thumb, which I'll go over here in a bit, is you want to be around doubling your money when it comes time for grading cards, okay? You want to at least try to double your money. Now, when you grade a card, it's going to take 4 to 6 weeks. Sometimes it could be 2 weeks, sometimes 8 weeks. It's kind of random, but I put 4 weeks for the purpose of like this chart. For a card, for you to send it in, get it back from grading. There's multiple different ways to get cards graded. You can spend a little bit more to get the card back faster, but for this purpose, it's going to take 4 weeks, okay? So check this out. Let's say you're buying one card a day, like I just said, and each card's $100. So week 1, you're spending $500. And then you spend $500 again, and you spend $500 again, and you spend $500 again. So the first 4 weeks, you're making no money. Money is just coming out of your bank account. That's it, right? That's business. That's investing. Now, week 5, you spend $500 again. But at this point, hopefully we have some cards that come back from grading. And if you're following what I'm about to teach you, you should be able to about double your money. So now, this $500 you sent in for grading comes back to you. And now it's $1,000. Aha, you see? Hopefully this is making sense. And now you have $1,000 to work with. So you take this money and you spend it on cards to get graded, right? And now another $1,000 in cash comes back to you from week 2, right? You see how this process goes, right? And you take the money and reinvest it here. And another $1,000 comes back to you from week 3. Great. And same thing over and over again. And now by week 10, right, you have $2,000 that came back to you from week 6, okay? Now, you might be asking yourself, well, if this is so easy, why do you teach it, or why can't you just scale this to $1 million? There is a cap on how many good quality cards you can find to get graded. Once again, this is simply put, right? You're going to have weeks that are better than others. You'll have weeks where you sent in 8 cards for grading and only 1 got a 10 and you broke even. You'll have weeks where 7 out of... So like, once again, this is just to make it simple and so you understand the process, okay? So this is it, simply put, and this is very scalable to making like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 in profit a month. After that, it gets a little bit harder, and using the grading strategy, you could scale it past 10 grand a month in profit, but you got to implement some other strategies, which I'm not going to talk about in this video because this is for the sole purpose of, a beginner, get into the hobby, make some quick, easy, few $1,000s a month cash, okay? So this is how grading works. Hopefully this makes sense. I call it the avalanche effect, right? Because it builds momentum and it builds steam as time goes on. Okay, now, this is also important, okay? This is just like, honestly, all of these are so important because I didn't understand all these when I first started, and it was hard to make money. So, like, all these are just equally as important, to be honest. Okay, understanding how timing works, okay? Sports cards are a hype-driven market, okay? What do I mean by that? Player values will go up and down by a lot just based on speculation, okay? Just because, like, when Tua Tagovailoa a few years ago, when the Dolphins traded for Tyreek Hill, his value went up a lot because people were like, oh my God, Tua's going to be amazing, all right? So it's very hype-driven. This is good. This is good because this is how we make our money. So let me show you an example. All right, let me actually pull this up. Okay, so this is a tool I use frequently. It's called Market Movers, all right? And this screenshot I attached here as well because if you guys, it does cost money, so you could look at the screenshot here. All right, Jordan Love. He's the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. If you look here, this is the beginning of February. This is one of his most commonly sold cards, okay? Oh, whoops. And it doesn't matter what the card is. This is just for me to show you. So, February, okay? This card was selling for about, you can see there was a sale for about $1,200, okay, in February. All right, February is the offseason. Jordan Love was not playing. He lost to, who did he lose to? The Niners. They should have won that game. But he lost in January, right? So his Contenders PSA 10 sold for about $1,200. Fast forward to September 1st. The same exact card. The same exact card sold for $2,200, as you can see right here. All right. Jordan Love in this time period has not played. He has done nothing. Okay. This is how sports cards works, because people got excited and they were like, oh my God, Jordan Love is playing so well and the Packers are going to be so good. And just for they didn't even pick up anybody, but just for no reason whatsoever, people were just getting excited and the hype and his value built and built and built. And you could see his value of this card almost doubled from February to September, and he never played one snap. Isn't that wild? Okay, which is great. It's great for what I'm about to show you. So you could see this is how it works for young players. Okay, young players are almost like penny stocks. Okay, you ever see Wolf of Wall Street? A penny stock is a younger company, a startup, and if they do anything good, people get super excited. As opposed to like Disney, right? No one cares if Disney has a good quarter. Their stock percentage will go up 1%, 2% because they're a blue chip stock. As opposed to a penny stock, like I said, if they have a good quarter, they'll double. Just like Jordan Love. Jordan Love is more similar to a penny stock. He hasn't proven that much. People are kind of like speculating, as opposed to like, you can see the example I put here was like Aaron Judge, for example, the baseball player. He's been good for so long. He's basically a first ballot Hall of Famer. Nobody cares if he has a good week. His value will go up and down by a few percent points, unless like, I don't know, he does something crazy. Like Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, Patrick Mahomes. These guys are all blue chip stocks. And honestly, for what we're doing here, like Patrick Mahomes, his rookie year was in 2017. We're not really going to be buying those cards anyways because they're not easy to get graded, right? They're like 7, 8 years old at this point. So hopefully that's making sense. Hopefully what I'm saying is making sense. And all this stuff is important before like, you start to actually get into like the buying stuff. So if you're thinking one step ahead here, check this out. So let me show you this example. So Jordan Love, his value was inflated going into the season, all right? We know it's inflated because it went up almost double and he did nothing. So what does that mean when a season actually begins? What does that tell us? Well, what that tells us is it is very difficult for a player to maintain their value. Most, if not all, but most, like 90% of players go down in value once the season begins. Once the baseball, football, or basketball season begins, their value goes down. It's just how it works. Not everybody, but most guys, okay? Because, think about it. For Jordan Love to maintain that value, he has to play really well. And if he plays really well, his value probably will not even go up because it's inflated. However, if he does anything wrong, it'll shoot down because of his value is carried by all this speculation and hype. And just like it could shoot up, it could shoot down very quickly. And Jordan Love got hurt. He banged up his knee a little bit in the first game at the end of it. And you can see what this card sells for, right? Before the season, it was $2,200. Now, he got injured here, I believe. It sold for 1.8 and 1.5, and one sold for 2,000, I guess, because he's coming back soon while I'm speaking. But look how much it fell to 1.5K. It fell almost 50, a little less than 50% just because he got injured. Why? Because his value was inflated, okay? So the point I'm trying to make is we always sell our cards before the season begins. We buy in the off season, we sell right before the season begins, a month or two leading up to it, okay? We never hold into the season. It's always a bad idea because most guys go down in value, which brings me into this point. Taking advantage of timing the market, okay? So there's a famous quote. It's a famous quote that I live my life by and how to make money in sports cards. So Warren Buffett once said, be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. What does that mean? What that means is, well, everybody was super excited and they were super bullish on Jordan Love before the season begins. You should be scared. You should be selling his stuff, okay? And when everyone's scared of someone like Jordan Love back in February when he lost the playoffs, the season was kind of ending, his value was down, that's when you buy, right? Something is only an opportunity. This is a great quote. I think this is an amazing quote. I think Alex Hormozy said it, or he may have got it from someone. But something is only an opportunity when no one sees it as an opportunity. Once everybody sees something as an opportunity, it's not an opportunity anymore, right? Because there's not much upside anymore. It's kind of like crypto or NFTs. NFTs is a good example during the pandemic, right? Everybody was like, holy shit, this is the next big thing, shot down. However, before the pandemic, that's when NFTs were an opportunity and you would have made a lot of money. Same concept with sports cards, okay? So basically what I'm trying to say here in a simple form is we buy younger players while their values are down in the dead of the offseason, and we sell it going into the season, okay? So we buy when it's not hyped, sell when it's hyped. Buy low, sell high, right? Simply put. And if you pair this with grading, right? So like not only like this Jordan Love example I gave, you could buy it when it's low, sell it when it goes up in value, but we're also getting these cards graded, which are double or triple the value. If you follow what I'm saying here, and these cards graded 10, so like you could buy a card for $100, and let's say you buy, let me give an example. Let's say you buy a baseball player who's down in value in October in the offseason for $100, and you send this card in for grading, and if this card grades a 10, it's worth about $250. However, the goal is if it's going to be sitting at the grading company for 1 month, 2 months, we want to be buying assets that are appreciating, right? So not only are we buying cards to flip, get graded, and make money, but the value of it should be increasing, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. So I put together this simple table here as to when to buy certain cards. So you can see, this is like general, okay? This is not like end all be all right? So like for those of you guys that are going to comment, like you don't know what you're talking about, it's general, okay? This is for beginners. Football. When do we like to buy football? February through May in the offseason, maybe a little bit of January as well. When do we like to sell it? We like to sell it in July and August, right? Right into the hype, especially the National Card Show. Football goes crazy there, which is always at the end of July. Basketball, right? We want to buy from June to August, right? This is like the dead of the offseason, right? The finals is about June. And sell it September to October. So the buying window for basketball is much smaller. And we want to sell it right before the season. The season usually starts mid-ish October. Baseball, the buying window is a little bit bigger. We like to buy October to December and sell into spring training, February to March. So I actually like to sell baseball in February because people will overreact a lot of the time to these younger guys playing well or not well in spring training, and I don't like to leave that up for chance. So I like to sell a lot of my baseball actually in February, maybe January. And why is this a beautiful thing? This is like a beautiful process, right? Because it's a cycle. So check this out. So, right, you buy your football, you sell it. Then you take your money, you move it into basketball, you sell it. Then you take your money, move it into baseball, you sell it, and then you move it back into football. Oh, whoops. And then you move it back into football, right? It's like this cycle over and over and over again. It's a beautiful thing, the way it works out. All right, so now hopefully timing the market makes sense. Now, we know the basic fundamentals of making money in sports cards. There's more, but I'm keeping the basics to the most important ones to this presentation. So now, buying the right types of products, or in other words, the right types of brands of cards, okay? Now, not every card is made equal, all right? You might have cards that you can't sell. Why? Because no one wants them, right? So we want to be buying cards that are liquid. The cards that are liquid are the best brands of cards. Now, you can see here, I can give you a whole history lesson as to why some of these cards are better than others, because they're older and the original they're originals and collectors want them more, so it dates back about 10, 15 years ago, but that stuff doesn't matter, okay? Because we're here to make money. You don't need a history lesson from me. So, if you're a beginner, these are the best brands, or people call them products, of cards. So football, the best is Prism. That's why I put an asterisk next to it. Optic, Donruss, Contenders, Optic Contenders. And if I head over to eBay here, like I'll just kind of show you what this looks like, because some of you guys who are new might be saying, what the hell is he talking about? So, right, if we take someone like CJ Stroud, right? CJ Stroud, Prism. All right? Prism, let me find a CJ. Let me type in like green. So, the way this works is, like this is a type of CJ Stroud Prism card. So, each one of these brands or products has multiple different variations under them, like a bunch, like green, blue, black, disco, blue. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to go into it because it's not that important, but that's how it works. And like CJ Stroud also has another brand or product called Optic, right? So like, for example, Optic, this is like a common type of card, but so this is another type of brand or product of CJ Stroud, okay? So they just have different types of cards. Like this is like the best, most liquid one. You can find a lot of them in like the $100, $200 range. But so that's all I mean by different brands. So hopefully that visual kind of makes sense. And these are the best types of brands to buy. And for baseball, Bowman Chrome is the best. That's what it's called. Also, Topps Chrome and Top series are good. So the way baseball works is a little bit funny. So Bowman Chrome, okay, you can buy prospects. So in baseball, right, there's something called the minor leagues, all right? So when a player signs for a team and he's 18 years old and he signs for the Mets, let's say, and he's in the single or double A system, what that tells us, or well, not what that tells us, but what happens is he will have cards he's going to sign. Okay, he has cards when he comes into the minor leagues at 18, 19 years old. These are his Bowman Chrome cards. However, when a player finally makes the majors, the big leagues, he'll get his Topps Chrome and Top series. So you will find 18, 19, 20-year-old prospects, which is why I like Bowman Chrome, because they're really volatile. And like as I explained before, I like the volatility because it's a good way to make money, right? Timing the market. And then once he finally comes into the majors, he gets these types of cards. And basketball is the same as football. Okay, same types of cards. Prism's the best, most affordable. There's other types of cards as well that are really good, like Flawless and National Treasures, but they're very expensive, not good for grading, and not good for these purposes, what I'm trying to show here. Okay? Also, this is a little side note I put together here that I think is important. So the good cards, like the good brands, like all these for basketball and football, don't come out until the next year. So this example I gave here. So Caleb Williams, for example, got drafted in 2024, okay? His good cards, or like his Prism cards, for example, don't come out until the following year. So in like February, March, or April of 2025, okay? Which is why, like, if you search like Caleb Williams Prism, okay, he doesn't have. Like, this is not his regular Prism. He had, okay, so like this is also another point. So he has Prism, but in his college uniform. We want to be only buying people in their NFL or NBA uniform. Okay? It's a whole different conversation. But just take my word for it, because people want this stuff in his college uniform much less than stuff in his professional uniform. Okay? So, now, so we know the types of cards to buy. Next is evaluating the condition. Okay? So, this is the trickiest, hardest part when it comes to buying cards and getting them graded, all right? There's 4 pieces of criteria these grading companies look at when you're sending a card in for grading. The corners, the edges, the centering, and the surface. And the autograph, but I'm not going to go into that. That's if you're getting the autograph graded. It doesn't matter for these purposes, okay? So I figured the best way to do this, I've been doing this a long time, is for me to, let's do an actual example, right? So right now, let's kind of put some of this together, all right? So right now, while I'm speaking, it's September. I'm trying to buy maybe a little bit of basketball, maybe a little bit of baseball. It's kind of an in-between time, all right? So let's go here. And a way I like to search for cards, and searching for cards is a whole different presentation that I'm not going to get into. Let's type in like Bowman Chrome 2023, all right? And let's look at some auctions that are ending soonest. Let's do like, I don't know, minimum of $100. And a little hack here is you can go to advanced and put in minimum 1 bid count. So it only shows me cards with at least 1 bid. So I know they're like within market value. All right. Paul Skeens, pretty noticeable player. This card is a solid type of card to buy, right? It's Bowman Chrome. However, if you look here, the centering, so to me, I could see it right away, but it's off, right? Look at this left border is bigger than the right border. You see how this right is smaller than the left? So this card is off-centered. So this card most likely will not grade well. And then also I want to look at the corners. Are they sharp right angles? Okay, these corners look pretty good. And then the edges, usually edges on cards are for the most part good. And then the centering, like I just went over. And the surface, which is the hardest to see. But I put here, you want to be looking for dimples and factory lines. So a lot of the time, surface with sports cards, like if I go back to that example before, like CJ Stroud, the Optic Hollow, the shinier the card, the easier the surface gets messed up. So like, for example, like let's see if we can find something on this card. So a lot of the time there's like little dots in these cards, and this card actually looks kind of clean, to be honest. But a lot of the time these shinier cards have surface problems, like these lines going through it. And this is like a kind of a shitty picture, but you could see like this surface just looks something looks wrong with it. I don't know, but like this card, for example, the back is colored. It's all blue. And when the back is all blue, right, these corners are going to chip easier as opposed to if it was white, right? If the corners are white, it can't chip because if it chips, it's still white. The corners will be very noticeable if they chip, right? So like, for example, like this card, let's see, is a PSA 9. He took a bad picture. Sometimes people will take bad pictures because they don't want you to see the damage in the card. Yeah, I can't find the damage in this card. Oh, yeah, you can see. Do you see right here how there's a scratch right here? So this scratch probably caused the card to be a 9. So that's a whole different tutorial, but these are the 4 pieces of criteria when it comes for grading cards. Now, the math, very important as well. So people get tripped up on this all the time. Sports cards are an amazing thing because you can literally see the profits you can make before ever buying the card. Like, when can you ever do that? If you buy a piece of real estate, you have no idea what it's going to sell for if you buy it and flip it, right? So going back to the CJ Stroud example, let's pretend I was thinking about buying this card. So a standard rule of thumb is you want to be at least doubling your money after grading fees and all fees, right? So if it's going to cost you about $20 to get a card graded, right? So if you spend $100 on a card and it costs you $20 to get it graded, you want to at least double your money if the card grades a 10, okay? So you will want to at least net $240. So let's go back to this example of CJ Stroud since I have it pulled up. And let's look, if you click right here, you'll find the sold items. This kind of brings me into the next point, okay? So determining the value of a card is how to do what I just did. So you click sold items, and also what you could do is I put right here, you can download this Chrome extension, Cardboard Market, and this will tell you what cards sell for with or best offer. So if you see here, I don't know why it does this, but like this card, for example, is CJ Stroud. The guy had it listed for $160 or best offer. Somebody offered on the card, and eBay doesn't tell us what it sells for some reason with our best offers, but Cardboard Market will. So it sold for $145. All right. So this card of CJ Stroud, this Optic Hollow, you can see sells for about $330 as a 10. A 10 also did $425, $420, $370. So like, I don't know, you could average this out and say it sells for about $380 to $400. So if I could buy one of these cards for $130, okay, send it in for grading and it gets a 10, it's going to cost me about $20 to get it graded. I could at least double my money after grading fees, which is great. That's the goal. However, if you were only able to buy this card for $130 and as a 10, it only sells for, like, let's say it sells for like $250, you can't double your money. So it's not worth it, right? You could still make money, but we want to put our money in the best possible position. And putting it there is not the best possible position. So, and grading, the reason it's an amazing thing, okay? So this is why it's amazing. If you buy this card for $113, okay? And let's say it grades a 10, right? I just showed you, you'll make a lot of money. But if it grades a 9, you can see what a 9 sells for. A 9 sells for about the same usually. Roughly, it's going to be about the same as the price of a raw card, give or take. However, after fees and everything, if it doesn't grade a 10 and it grades a 9, you'll probably lose like $20 to $30 to $40 total. If it grades a 10, you're making about $200, okay? And if you follow what I'm saying here, and if you're decent, about 60 to 70% of the cards you send in for grading, or those are the results with my students, will grade a 10. So think about this, right? And I probably should have put this math example in here. If you send in 10 cards for grading and 6 of them get a 10 and you make $200 on each of them, and 4 of them grade a 9 and you lose $40 on each of them, that's good money, right? It's just a game, right? This is just a whole math game, right? Once you understand all the core principles I'm talking about here, It's a math game, right? When you make money, you make a lot. And when you lose money, you lose a little bit. And you keep repeating that process over and over again, and you make a lot of money, right? That's why this is a beautiful thing. All right. So sending in for grading. So I kept this simple. Once again, I try to keep this as simple as possible. There's multiple different grading companies like SGC, Beckett, a bunch. Just send your cards to PSA. I put the link to the PSA website right here. PSA is the highest or most valuable grading company. You're gonna get the biggest bang for your buck. There's certain times to use other grading companies, like with certain cards, if it's higher end, or if you're buying Pokemon, sometimes Beckett is good. But send it to PSA. Bottom line, keep your life simple. And I recommend when you buy cards, send them into your actual house or your apartment or wherever you live, because you can buy cards and send them to consignment places where they'll clean them and prep them and send them for grading and sell them, which we do and I do. But there's more money made when you do it all yourself. It's faster. You actually see the card. You control everything. And that's just what I recommend. And I've seen the most successful people do it themselves. There's no right or wrong. I'm just telling you in my experience what I have seen. All right. So that's how to send your cards in for grading and where to send them. Send them to PSA. And there's multiple YouTube videos out there on how to clean cards, mail them, prep them, all that stuff. I'm not going to get into that. That part you can figure out yourself. Now, step number 10. So this is one of the most common questions I get. But the reason people ask me this question is because I have it all twisted. Your questions should be on buying cards. Buying cards is much more difficult than selling cards. Once you buy the right stuff at the right time, selling becomes much, much easier. That's why 9 out of these 10 steps are about buying, and there's 1 step about selling. But I put multiple steps in the selling step. All right, so I'm going to tell you what I've done that's made me successful at this, and you can take it and run with it. So step number 1, sell yourself. Don't send to consignment shops. Sell yourself via social media, card shows, eBay. Card shows are really good, especially if you're doing what I'm saying here. People just come there and give you straight cash. You sell stuff right away. I've used a lot of social media, me personally. So that's number 1. This has been the most important one. Sell for 90% of comps, or 90% of the value of a card. So if you buy a card for $100, let's say, and it grades a 10, and now it's worth $300, sell it for slightly under market value, so about 90%, for about $270. Why? Because there's something called opportunity cost, or for those of you guys who are in finance and fancier word, the present value of your money, right? Money is worth more today than it is in the future. You would rather have $500 today than $500 in a year, because you could do stuff with that money today, right? It's common sense. Now, this is kind of contrary to what I was saying before, but this will make sense. So think about it. If you do this example and you buy a card for $100 and it grades a 10, would you rather sell it right now for $270 or sell it for $330 in 2 months, right? Let's say you could hold the card a little bit longer and wait till the season's about to begin and it'll go up in value. You'd rather have the $270 now, because you can take the $270 and repeat this process again before that card ever goes up in value. So you can double this $270 before this card ever goes up to $330, okay? And so you're able to get cash quicker, because people are going to buy these cards right away if you're slightly under market value. And on top of that, it's actually making you more money, because you're getting money faster and you're able to repeat this process faster, because speed is the name of the game, okay? And this leads me into step number 3. So as you are doing what I'm saying and selling stuff for slightly under market value, you want to build connections, okay? By following this strategy, you're going to be someone that people want to deal with, okay? People like people that are fair and reasonable and fairly priced. I don't know if you've ever been to a card show before, but I can't tell you how many times I run into people and they just want, like, if a card's worth $500, they're asking $700 for a card and they won't budge. The reason they are is because, number 1, they don't know what they're doing, right? And they're into the card for way too much. And number 2, people just want every last dollar. If you're greedy and want every last dollar, no one likes you, number 1. And number 2, you're actually costing yourself money because you're holding money up, okay? So as you repeat this process over and over and over again, you want to make conversation with people, get their phone number, get their Instagram, whatever, and At a certain point, like I do and like a lot of my students do, you'll have a bunch of people's phone numbers and you can just text them before you even get cards back from grading. Hey, you want this stuff? Yeah, I do. And they'll just Zelle you, wire, PayPal, no fees, cash right away. And it's the easiest way to sell cards. And I put this little P&L. So this is what I use a lot of the time for my for buying cards. You can see it has like everything, you know, the sport. This is for students, so I'm just giving it to you guys for free. But that's why you see stuff about coaches, how much it costs, the grading fee, all that stuff, where you bought it from. But this is the most important part, okay? Who'd you buy it from? Link it. Or you can put their phone number here. Who'd you sell to? Link it. So you could go back into the spreadsheet and see all the people that have bought your cards and all the people that you sold cards to. So at a certain point, let's say you have a bunch of, I don't know, Victor Wembanyama cards. You can just search in here for basketball and see who's bought your basketball cards in the past and just hit them up, right? Just text them and put their phone number in here. So you want to be keeping track or keeping logs of your data, okay? This is why it's important to be organized, and it makes you a lot of money in the long run, okay? So hopefully this all makes sense. It's crazy because it sounds so simple to say out loud, but it took me 10 years. Not 10 years, it took me 5 years actually. I've been doing this stuff for 10 years, but it took me 5 years to figure all this stuff out, okay? And I wish I knew more of this when I first started, but here you guys go. Just take all my knowledge and run with it because I think it's very valuable and you don't have to make the same mistakes I did. But hopefully all this stuff makes sense. I try to keep it as basic as possible. I'll come out with other trainings in the future as to like stuff more in depth on each one of these steps. But this is a bird's eye view. This is a great for beginners. This is how to get started in sports cards. I truly do believe sports cards is the easiest, simplest way to make a few $1,000s a month. That is my goal in life and my life's mission. People who have 9-to-5 jobs and who work, make them some extra cash because life just gets much easier with that. And this is a great way to do it because it's sports and it's money and it's fun, right? Who doesn't like sports and money? So hopefully you enjoyed this presentation. Hopefully that video was valuable, and the key to this whole process is the math and the numbers behind it. So once you understand what cards are good and how to evaluate the condition, it's really a numbers game. That's what business is. It's an arbitrage, it's a numbers game. And at the end of the day, just simply put, you're buying a card for, let's say, $100, and if it grades a 9, maybe you'll lose about 20 bucks, 10 bucks, 30 bucks. And if it grades a 10, you're making $150, $200 profit. Not every card's going to grade a 10, but if you're decent and follow any of the videos or any of the instructions I put out there, you can grade a 10 about 60 to 70% of the time with these newer cards. And that's a great game, right? 60% of the time you're making double to triple your money. The other 40% you're losing a little bit. You keep repeating that game over and over again, and that's how you make a lot of money. It's basically a giant math equation. That's how to make money in sports cards. And hopefully you enjoyed this video. I put a lot of effort into it, so hopefully you got some value. If you're new to this channel, subscribe. If you're not, like, comment. I try to go through all the comments as much as possible and answer any questions or any comments in my podcast. But like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.